Hello and welcome to Dave's Delightful Dishes. And as I'm getting used to the name change of Dave's Delightful Dishes, sometimes I'm probably still going to make the mistake and say the old name of my show. So on this as we get into this next video, which is short ribs, I may say the wrong name, but don't worry about it. It's definitely this show. See you in there. And as always, I'm Dave, and it is such a delight to share my kitchen with you. And today we've got something special. I'm continuing, well, honestly, everything I do I consider special because I love food so much. But today we're doing something that I consider extra special. We're continuing with this whole fall foods thing and giving me lots of opportunities to use my Dutch ovens. Today I want to do short ribs. Now these are beef short ribs, and they're just like they're custom made for slow cooking. You know, all the connective tissues and everything, when you cook it low and slow, it just comes apart and it falls apart in your mouth. Making me drool a little bit just thinking about it. So we're going to do these in a slow cooked in a red wine sauce with vegetables, and then we're going to end up having that over mashed potatoes because my wife likes mashed potatoes, and that'll make for a nice evening and a nice dinner. So I start off and we have 6, but depending on how many people you're serving for, you can adjust the number. But 6 of these short ribs. And remember, wash your hands. And there's going to be the bone on the one side. You really want them bone in, and then they should be pretty meaty. If you're at the store and they look really thin, maybe move on or ask the butcher if he's got anything that's got some more oomph to it. This was about just shy of 2 pounds, or just over 2 pounds worth of ribs today. So it all depends on what you got and what you got available to you, but most of the people have access to at least a butcher department inside their supermarket, so you should be able to get these relatively easily. We've got the ribs. We have 1.5 teaspoons of salt and pepper, which we're going to put on the ribs as soon as I'm done introducing everything else. We have a couple of bay leaves. In this case, I have 3, but 2 to 3. I have 3 cloves of garlic that are minced, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now, when I'm doing those low numbers, remember I'm using a tube for it rather than opening up a can. If you're using like ounces worth, then I go for the cans. But I like keeping these little almost like toothpaste tubes worth, a couple of them in the fridge, just in case I need to do small amounts. 2 tablespoons of olive oil to get things started. 1 large onion that I've chopped. 2 carrots that I've peeled and chopped. And 2, since we're doing ribs, 2 ribs of celery that have been chopped, roughly chopped. And then for the liquid parts, I have 2 cups of beef broth and 2 cups of a dry red wine. Yeah, that one happens to be a Cabernet Sauvignon, but you can pick pretty much any dry red you like. What we're going to do first here, before we move over to the cooktop, is I have preset my oven for 325 degrees. And you want to make sure that the shelf is low enough so that you can put your Dutch oven in. I've made that mistake before where I now have a 300-degree rack that I have to try to move. And yes, I can do it barehanded, but it's easier to do it while it's cold. But I need to take these ribs and I need to get some salt and pepper on them. So we're going to take that 1.5 teaspoons of salt and pepper, and we're just going to generously spread it over the meat. And then I'm going to wash my hands once I'm done filming this part, because we're going to go to the cooktop next. But we're trying to get it pretty much on every side. This is our main flavoring for the meat. And this is why I pre-measure out this type of thing rather than using my salt well. So that way I don't get beef juice into my salt that goes to everything else. But you see, we're not going nuts as far as exactly how much goes on each rib. We're just getting some coverage. And then the final side. Perfect. And if you have any leftover off of the 1.5 teaspoons that you're using of these, you can just add that in with the broth, or you can hold it aside and taste and see if you need it at the end. But ideally, we're just going to try to get all that onto these pieces of meat to get them cooking in from the beginning. So now that I've made a mess of my countertop, we are going to head over to the Dutch oven, and I will see you over there. Okay, so I have heated that Dutch oven up onto high heat. So it's getting pretty darn warm, and now I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And now what we have to do, and we're going to do this in batches, but we have to sear all these ribs on all sides. So we're going to get 3 of them in. And this is a pretty aggressive searing. We want to get some fond, some brown on this pan, on the inside of this Dutch oven. And you can see it's already sizzling pretty hard because I've got this on a nice high, like smoking hot high heat. Make sure that you've got your vent fan going because this is probably going to put up some smoke. You can see it doesn't take long for it to brown, but we want to get it to get really brown. So I'm going to give this going, and I'm going to do 1 flip so you can see what it looks like, and then I'll get back to you once I'm done with getting all of these taken care of. Yeah. All right. You can see these are some really nice meaty ribs. I'm very excited for these tonight. Okay, we got some browning starting there. All right. Now, I will be back with you guys when we're done with these and the other 3. Wow, there are a few things better than the smell of cooking beef. I mean, it smells wonderful. And these are now, as you can see, pretty well browned. Nowhere near done because they're this so thick, but they're pretty well browned and ready to be taken off the pan. And I'm going to reduce the heat to medium now. So these go off and they go to the side for the moment. And we're going to get the onions on before things start smoking too heavily. And they'll start sizzling right away. And we have to stir them, and we're going to make those start softening up, and they'll turn translucent like every other time we're making stuff with onion. And don't worry about all the fond on the bottom of this pan. Once we get the liquid ingredients in, that's going to come up off, and the cooking action over several hours will definitely clear that up for us. But now that these have softened up just a little bit, we're going to add in our garlic. And we just want to keep this moving. We'll see how quickly those are browning up. Let's add some carrot. And let's add some celery. And we're just trying to kind of sweat all these vegetables down, get them not softened up all the way because that's going to be hours worth of cooking to make that happen. But enough so that they're not rock hard and they're starting to give up their moisture a little bit. You see how quickly they absorbed all the oil. We really just kind of coated them. And now we got to put in our tomato paste. And we're going to stir that around so that it coats everything. And don't worry about the bit that's on your spoon. That's going to come off when we add the liquid ingredients. Now I'm going to let this cook for about 3 minutes. And when we come back, we're going to move on and we're going to add in the liquid ingredients, the final spices, and get this thing going in the oven. Okay, so we're going to add in our herbs now, which is a bunch of thyme. It's probably about 5 sprigs. And you can see I tie it at the end there. And the reason I do that is so that I can get it back out again real easy, because the woody stems of the thyme branches aren't really great to eat. So those go in, as do your bay leaves. And then here comes our wet ingredients. Our wine, our our beef broth. And that's an older wine that I have there. That one was from 2010, so it had some sediment floating around in it. Not a big deal. If there's any big chunks, you just get them out. Otherwise, it won't even be noticeable. It's all edible. And I'm just going to, as I'm stirring this up, I'm just trying to get everything mixed together. And I'm going to start trying to get the good stuff off the bottom because we've got the liquid in there now. And I just want to get this to a light simmer. So I'm going to turn the heat back up to high. And now, it's going to go back in my ribs. You're going to settle them down in. And any juices that were left on them. All right. We are fully loaded. So I'm going to get this to a boil, and then I'm going to put a lid on it, and it's going to go in my oven. That'll go for 3 hours in the oven, and then I'll check it. But between 3 and 3.5 hours, what we're looking for is the bone to be no longer attached to the meat, where the connective tissues that are holding that bone in place have now separated, so that you would be able to pull the bone out, and it feels like it's going to fork separate, so the meat will separate with a fork. But we're going to get there once we get there. This is now in set and forget mode. So I will see you guys back later this afternoon. Instantaneous for you, but a couple hours for me. Okay, the timer went off, and this is ready to be out of the oven. So we've got it here, and there's some next steps that we have to do to finish it off, but just wait. Wow, look at that. That has reduced really well. I'm going to have some cleaning to do on this Dutch oven, though. Look at that. Ugh. So first thing we got to do is we're going to get the short ribs out very carefully because they're really tender now. And if the bones have fallen out, we want to get them out too because we got to do something with the liquid. And look at that. I got the bay leaves. That's the other thing we got to get out, but it looks like I got them on the first shot. Yeah, these are just fall apart tender now. The bones are just falling away, as you can see. So once we get these out, we're going to set them aside, and we'll put something on them, a little foil on them. There's the third bay leaf right there. So we got all the bay leaves. And now he's got to kind of feel around. Oh, there it is. There is the thyme bouquet. And you can see most of the leaves are off, and they're down in with the liquid. So we'll get that flavor back. And, you could strain this, or you could serve this with the vegetables just as it is. But, sometimes you'll get a child who doesn't like their vegetables, or maybe, an adult that doesn't like their vegetables. Well, we need to thicken this anyway. I'm going to put this on low heat, but I also have a way to thicken the sauce and make it so you don't really realize just what's in there. So we're going to mix all this up. And turn it into a puree. And then we'll reduce it a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll use that. Let me turn that down to low. Perfect. And we're going to use that as the sauce to go over the ribs when we plate them. So this is now ready for service. But if you wanted to, and you wanted to use those vegetables as a side dish, you certainly could. I'm just being a little bit craftier with it. As you see, once you blend it together, there might be a couple little bits in there, but I'm going to strain that if I must. and it's nice and thick. You want it to be pretty syrupy, and we can use that for our plating. So I'm going to see you guys back at the final workstation where we are going to plate this up. Okay, so final plating. I made some mashed potatoes. We've done mashed potatoes before on the show, and this time I had a bunch of these little tiny potatoes that I wanted to use up. So I left them with the skin on because they were red and purple and gold. So these are like these is the equivalent of like a red skin mashed potato. So there's a little bit of skin with it, and the skin's actually good for you, so it doesn't hurt to have that on. So I'm put a nice little section of these mashed potatoes on the plate. And then I'm going to take the sauce and I'm going to make a little lake for it. And then we're going to place one of the ribs on top of the sauce, leaning in to the potato. And these are a pretty good size, so one is a good start for any person. And then I got to just kind of drizzle a little bit more on top of this. Oh yeah, look at that. And I need a little napkin, because I need to thank my friend Wick, who reminded me, this is like Chopped. You better wipe your plate. Don't show a splattered plate on the internet. And thanks, Wick. I appreciate it. So that is basically ready, but because it's me, are you really done unless you put a little bit of parsley on. These are bigger pieces because it's holding up to a big piece of meat. So now you have a very nice piece of short rib with sauce. This is a nice red wine sauce. And vegetables, I don't know what you're talking about. I see no vegetables here. And mashed potatoes. You can put whatever else you like there. This would also be really good with pasta. And then also, we did this basically slow cooking in the oven with a Dutch oven. If you wanted to, you could put this in your slow cooker, and like a crock pot, put it on low for 8 hours. It would do the same thing. Or if you have a pressure cooker, you could do it for 1 hour and then natural release, and it'll do the same thing. But what I would recommend is before you put the canning lid on, you want to sear the meat inside the pressure cooker, as well as if you're going to do like a one pot, same game, 1 hour, but make sure you sear off the meat inside because you want all that flavor in the pot, not on some other pot. Besides that, to have a nice healthy salad with it, and this was a red wine, so you definitely want a red wine with dinner. Hopefully you guys try this because this is some really good fall food right here. And man, my whole house smells amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please let me know if you like it. Let me know if you tried it. Send me comments. Give me other things. Suggest things to me. Major shout out to my friends for suggesting this one to me. And I really hope to see you soon the next time you're here. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.